Hey out there, this is June 21st, 2014, the first day of summer. Longest day of the year. Up in Northern California. And this is where the eagles fly up here. It's on the road to paradise. In this big canyon here, I don't know if you can see it on the tape, but I got this pointed at a couple of eagles. Hard to capture. There they are. Pretty big birds. Looking for something to eat, huh? Hey out there, today I wanted to talk a little bit about current affairs. And first I wanted to talk about something I saw on the mainstream media recently that really set me off. And I get sick and tired of the lying and the propaganda, and the propaganda through omission, not just the stuff we're being told on mainstream media, but the stuff we're not being told. And if anybody out there has ever heard the term, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? That's what set me off. And what it was a newscaster, mainstream media newscaster, parroting whatever, piece of speech was given to him to convey to the public. He mentioned that people living in Guatemala make $2 a day. I believe it was Guatemala. It was one of the Central South American countries, and it really set me off because, to me, I think, what is the point? Why tell me what how much people are making? Maybe, for all I know, that's the equivalent of making $200 a day in America, based on our cost of living. So without giving me any more information, than how much they're making on average in Guatemala, I have no idea what their cost of living is. It's a meaningless statement, absolutely meaningless rhetoric. And that's an example of what these people do. I mean, they'll throw something out there as if it's important, and the fact is, it has no basis in reality. It has not an iota of relevance in the real world, in trying to educate people, help them to understand, why we have the problems that we have in the world, and why we can't seem to solve them. Why it's all about problem maintenance instead of, solving the problems, getting to the root. Instead of always talking about the effects, like, primarily, poverty is the cause of most of the crime, the vast majority of crime. Because of financial desperation, people do stupid things. So instead of saying, well, let's target poverty, so we go for the root, and then we won't have all the crime. We won't have to live in fear of being mugged, or, working at a bank and having some bank robber come in, or, on and on, convenience store, carjackings, mugging. It goes on and on and on. Embezzlement, There's just a million and one ways that people can turn into desperate thieves. So we fundamentally have to understand, how we're being taken. And, a lot of people that would just go right over, they'd say, oh, gee, how terrible. Oh, boy, those poor people. But we have no idea what it means. And to me, it's just so annoying. I mean, I immediately, feel adrenaline, flowing through my veins, and I feel like, what on earth is, what we've got the accumulated knowledge of the ages at our fingertips now with the internet. We have all this in this day and age, like unprecedented before any other time in history. Okay, unparalleled in history. All of us have the knowledge of the ages at our fingertips. And yet this is what we're fed. People still, are burying their heads in the sand. They don't want to know. It goes back to what King Solomon taught. He said that with great wisdom comes great much grief. And this is a matter of fact. It's a very unfortunate reality, but must be where that statement comes from, that ignorance is bliss. Because, that knowing stuff is kind of traumatic. When you know that the problems are sustained, they're invented, we're all manipulated to have chaos in our society. Right down the line, name a problem, any problem, and this is it. And the root of the problem is the money. The money motive is behind it. It's the most powerful form of magic in this world. It's like Jesus said, it's the God of this world. This is, for all intents and purposes, this is Satan's method of operation, MO. And we've all just got to get it, fundamentally get it. And the only way any of us on this planet are going to be truly free is if we have that basic understanding that this earth belongs to God, and as God's children, we have a right to share in this planet's goodies. We are entitled by divine decree, not by my decree or the decree of any man. Okay, it's just, this is how you have equality. This is how you have a level playing field. It's the opposite of discrimination. See, this world discriminates. If you're poor, you're looked down on. There's something wrong with this guy. He's poverty-stricken. That's a moral issue, right? He's lazy or he's stupid, as if stupidity even would be a moral issue. Or, he can't conform to the system enough. He can't get with the program. When, in reality, the opposite is true. If you take Jesus saying that, it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven than for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle, then it stands to reason that, in fact, it's the opposite. It's contrary. So actually, it's a lot easier if you're poor and your values are right. If you're thinking, your heart and mind are right, it's easier for you to slip into heaven. It's easier for you, like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within us. So it's easier for you to make that transition from the mortal to the immortal and say, wow, you know what? I know what I want. I want what my Father wants. And what does He want? He wants His children free, liberated, living in peace and harmony and perfect security. This is what we all want instinctively because God put it in our heart to desire these things. And if we can't have them, and if our fellow human being can't have them, that's our brothers and sisters, then we're not going to be content. This is why so many fanatically rich people are discontent. It's because, hey, you know what? What's bugging me, they don't even know a lot of them. But I'm here to tell you, I know what's bugging you, all you rich people out there. It's because you know that the wealth disparity keeps growing, and you wished that, you weren't exclusive, that you weren't the only one that had prosperity. You want your neighbor to have it. You want your family members to have it. It all makes sense. It makes, you want people you like to have prosperity. In your right mind, you are sharing your mind with God. God gave you the will to be an egalitarian, a benevolent human being, and not a malevolent, evil human being. So, you turn to God and you say it all makes sense. It's logical. It's reasonable. That, as a parent, what do you want for your kids? So what makes sense about how God, our divine parents, what do they want for their children? What makes sense? Only the best. They want us to have it all. They want us to live in an ideal society. And after all, what is heaven but an ideal society? There is a big change that needs to take place. Yes, we all are stuck in these mortal bodies. We're stuck in this devil's soup, this money-based reality. It's a satanic paradigm, and it has to go. And we have to give up these mortal bodies to have an immortal body. That's what's described in Scripture. That's the whole promise. That's why you should be a decent, upright human being, because the promise is an eternal life, and not in a crap hole like this, but in a paradise, a world that's perfect down to the smallest detail. Heaven, and what is heaven? Look, we all have the ability to understand what that means. And say, well, is it exclusive to me? It can only so many people have it. No, it's got to be all encompassing. It's got to be all embracing. It's got to be open to anybody to come in. Okay, and the criteria is that your heart has to be pure. Your mind has to be pure. You have to give a damn so much about your fellow human being that you understand your very own well-being is entwined, entangled in the welfare of your fellow man. And if your fellow man is being oppressed, if he's being treated shamefully and with violence, you are not going to be content. It's that simple. These are immutable laws of the universe, and nobody skates on them. It's just the way it is, and it's the way it should be. And in our right minds, we get it, we understand. And so it compels us to move forward and to be God's hands and feet, eyes and ears on the ground, and to do that work for good. It's not a religious thing. It's a cosmic undertaking. It's a commission, and we're compelled. It's irresistible because we want to be happy. We want to be content. We want a clear conscience. So we need that pure heart. We need to welcome the Spirit of God in to say, show me where I'm still evil. Show me where I'm not pleasing you. Show me where I'm a stench in your nostrils, and He will reveal it, because you're really asking for something good. And when you ask for something good, it will be given to you. Now back to what I was saying about current affairs. Right now we got this big brouhaha about the mass immigration from Central America. Apparently, it's as if, thousands, tens of thousands of people, nobody seems to really know, are, flooding into the United States and overwhelming the security and all this stuff. And, so a lot of people think, well, this is, a humanitarian crisis. You hear the president say, and other people. And, yeah, it's a humanitarian crisis. And here in America, we have long-standing, chronic humanitarian crises. Hell, we're letting our veterans die out in the cold. Do you understand? Or getting their head kicked in by some punk thug. That's the reality. We're letting people get, their immune system breaks down. You can't stay out in the cold and the heat day after day. It's unsanitary conditions. It should be illegal. Everybody on earth should have a right to housing. And you know what? If you think that's radical and extremist and far-fetched, Jimmy Carter, former President Jimmy Carter, believes the same thing. I'm not alone. I mean, look, every other creature on earth has a basic right to go out and seek shelter wherever it can, okay? And no man has a right to say, who are you? Who are you to tell me I can't set up camp here? I'm on this earth, and I have a right to seek shelter. That's what I am, like an animal. I'm a God animal. That's what human beings are. And if every other creature out there, all the other fauna, just takes it for granted, why shouldn't I? Do you understand? It's just like seeking water to drink. Every other creature on earth instinctively does these things. Yes, of course you're going to do it. You're going to breathe the air. You're going to do what your lungs dictate. That force God put in your body and mind, you're going to breathe automatically. It's instinct. Okay, and the same thing with food. When your stomach is growling, you know instinctively that you need food. So shelter is an instinct. It should be understood, and it is, as a matter of fact, a basic, essential human need. And we're letting all kinds of people die out in the cold. I mean, to me, some of these people are the nicest people you could ever meet. Okay, they're just disheartened, a lot of these people. They're nonconformists. They are misfits. They don't like the system. They know the game is rigged, and they don't want to play. Don't look down on these people. Say, what is God's point of view? Always turn to God. God, what kind of point, what perspective, what perception do you want me to have in this particular circumstance? And that's what I ask about this rush of the borders and, this embracing, come one, come all, immigrants from all these countries that are discontent. They've got worse oppression than us, likely. And, my heart goes out to humanity everywhere. But we've got to say, well, what's the root problem? It's the governments that are stealing the wealth of those people. Okay, instead of, letting these people prosper, okay, by creating trade and things that, they can manufacture and use. They won't do that. They just keep stealing the wealth. They do it through debt. They do it through destroying the currency. And that's the easiest thing in the world. It's the pain monster. When you see inflation, when you see the price of gas go up, what does that feel like? It feels bad, right? It triggers a fear instinct. Oh my God, wait, am I going to be able to put gas in my car? Oh God, I'm going to cut back on food. Oh, it's the pain monster. And that's how they do it. Right now, they've got us by the